a certain level of trauma before a certain age has a physical impact on your brain development. So I'm someone who's been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So the reason it's called borderline is because, or was called borderline, they now refer to it as EUPD, which is emotionally unstable personality disorder. It's generally rooted from childhood trauma. It's not as extreme as someone with bipolar, because with bipolar, those periods of manic and depressive episodes can last anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months, depending on episode.
Did you have to see a therapist?
Yeah, I attend therapy weekly. I'd first been actually given antidepressants by a GP at the age of 16.
Wow, that's quite young.
They would say something to me, and I'm sorry, Miss Khan, if you're watching this, Miss Khan, I didn't mean it. I might have told her to get run over by a bus. So when you're a black or an ethnic child, you cannot really be that open about your mental health. You can't really go on Facebook and talk about how you want to. She was posting content related to self-harm. I can't witness that and do nothing about it. So I went into school on smoke and doing crack cocaine with their mum at the age of 8 years old.
My mum was a drug dealer, and I used to smuggle drugs with her when I was 3.
Yeah, he's been calling me the N-word, making comments about the colour of my skin. He said women should be slaves. And I just pinned him against the wall and I just started kneeing him in the stomach. It took 2 teachers to get me off him.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Cilia Li Show. I'm your host, Cilia, and today we've got Keshia in the building. Hey, so thank you for coming on. We met at the gym.
We did. I love that.
I meet a lot of people from the gym actually. Introduce yourself first, actually. You know what you do, where you're from, all of that.
Yeah, so my name's Keshia, 27, just a young babe, you know, but still learning and growing in this world, of course. So I'm from Enfield at the moment, but have moved around a lot in the past. And I work in a primary school with children with social, emotional and mental health difficulties and also special educational needs difficulties. So that's kind of what I do most of my time, but in my free time I like to go to the gym. I'd like to do a bit of pole dancing, a bit of dance, a bit of exercise, you know, vibe with my friends, and trying to teach myself to skate. Well, going awfully, but I'm trying.
You got a lot going on, innit?
Yeah, try and do a bit of painting when I'm feeling in a bit of emotional vibe.
Okay.
Because I feel like it's very expressive, you know,
right.
freeing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try and dip into everything. I don't feel like there should be any limits, because humans are like multifaceted, you know, like try everything.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
also like healing that inner child, because
inner
me always wanted to skate, but she just isn't very good.
Are you scared like you fall flat on your face?
Yeah, I think we'll get into it a bit later on, but I think the perfectionism side of things, it leaves very little room for wanting to try risk and going like experiencing error. Because you're very like hard on yourself.
Yeah,
and stuff like that, so.
You judge yourself and things like that. That's 100%. Why I always say like part of self-love is having compassion for yourself 100%. And like be free to take the risk and go at like we're scared of the unknown and, you know, probably the fear of pain, things like that, but just face that fear. Like that fear is created in your head. That's it. But I think it's hard for a lot of people when that fear is reinforced by surrounding negativity. So, you know, for example, I'm sure you probably experienced this somewhat, a cultural thing, wanting to do something creative or expressive and being told, well, that's not going to pay the bills. 100%.
You're going to be a lawyer, because I don't want to hear all of this artist business. I don't want to hear all of this dancing business. I don't want to hear
Where are you from?
Ghana,
okay.
My mom's half Nigerian, half Ghanaian, so you know there are some rules over there.
Yeah. I know. So for example, me, right, so I play the piano. I'm classically trained. Now listen to this though, like every single Chinese person, it's very typical of me. Every single Chinese person, more or less, most Chinese people know either can play the piano or violin. Yeah, and because their parents would want them to be talented, I want them to know an instrument, grade A to diploma, things like that. But listen to this, we got all of that, we go through all of that training, all of that. Do they want us to be a musician?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you going to pay bills?
Exactly.
You must be able to say you can do all of these things, but none of them are relevant for life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like my mum, because I remember I took music for GCSEs. And
I did as well. My mum could not stand the idea of it.
Oh, is it? What instrument did you play?
Voice.
Oh, actually, I should know that. The voice is just voicing. But yeah, so yeah, did music for GCSE and A levels.
Oh.
So you know, like, remember we had to do part of one of the assessment is composing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Ooh, lost my sunglasses.
Yeah. I'm loving the whole look, by the way.
Thank you. I thought I'd come and look cute for you.
Yeah. And we've got like the same hair kind of thing, isn't it? Hey, let's go. Oh shit.
It's just the vibe.
It's the vibe, isn't it? But yeah, anyway, so going back, so like because I had to create our own track, a song. And I got really into it. I actually liked the process of it, coming up the lyrics, and because I played the piano all of that, and I was really enjoying it. And then even at home, I was then starting like just coming up with composing, like all these like melody and everything. Anyway, basically, then fast forward, I was like to my mum, I think I want to be a music producer, and she just looked at me like, you know, they don't make a lot of money. You know, it's very hard to make it in the industry. I was like, but mum, but look at so and so. And then she'd be like, but how many of these people will become like that person?
Were you born here?
I was born in Sweden.
Born in Sweden? Wow.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
So I think, like, sorry to cut you off,
That's
but I think,
all right.
like, one of the first things that comes to my mind is, like, you want us to do all these things because it's things that maybe you never had or things that you view are valuable. Yeah. But then, like, you bring us into this Western world, but you still continue to have that, like, back home mentality. Yeah. So it's like, you want me to be grade a million piano or violin, but God, dare I ask to be a musician? Like, you don't want me to live in poverty. I get that.
Yeah.
And
I was thinking, like, why can't I be the next Cilia Li? I don't have to be the next so and so. I can be the next Cilia Li.
That's it.
You know what I mean? But so it's a no-no. All this like creative stuff. Yeah. But me being a PT, you know, they were a bit disappointed actually. They actually, in fact, to this day they don't rate it.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm not a PT anymore anyway. But I still got a qualification. But yeah, because I've got a master's degree, and they were like, you've got a master's degree, you shouldn't be doing this. You should be working for a corporate company, 9 to 5, get a stable job and things like that. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't go to uni to work for a corporate company to work on someone's dream. I did it for myself. 100. And I studied entrepreneurship. So I'm an entrepreneur right now. Exactly. So yeah. So
I guess like it's funny because they always have this thing like, we want the best for you. Like, this is what's
I get it. Yeah.
But like it's that clash between like attachment and authenticity.
Yeah.
Because like as human beings we have this like we have those two innate needs, but sometimes they can clash with each other. And it's almost like, you know, that need to be oneself is so important because you only have you at the end of the day. Yes, you have your family, you have relatives, you have partners, you have children, but it's only you at the end of the day. And if you are not like authentically being you and allowing that to take place like in a physical form, it just sets up a whole different, you know, vibe for your life. And like I think they struggle with that because from where they've come from, authenticity has not been a priority. Attachment, survival, making ends meet, doing what has to be done. Those are all priorities. You don't have time to worry about, I don't feel great about myself. And
also like, I don't know about your culture, but Chinese culture, they really care what people think, like what relatives, they think about, what would your uncle think, like that. So, for example, but not all. For example, my mum's side, I always say this, I don't care. My mum's side, they're quite snobbish. Okay. So if I said, I'm a content creator, they'll be like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, it needs to have a title.
Yeah,
it needs to be something I can brag to my friends about.
Whereas my dad's side, they're very laid back. And I remember that first time I put a YouTube video up, my dad's older brother texted me straight away, was like, oh wow, you're so cool, so I'm gonna support you, send me more, you know, things like that. But my point is basically, because of the culture, like there's certain expectations you got to meet, and so then that takes away from you being free 100%. And being your true authentic self. So, which is why I always call myself the black sheep in my family, because I don't give a fuck what people think. I literally do me, as you probably know, and a lot of people know that, and I actually unapologetically do me, and I do whatever. I chase my dreams. If I have a dream, I want something to do something, I'll go do it. I'm not going to let these culture or family or whatever society sort of opinion to hold me back, stop me from chasing my dreams. Sometimes I do feel sorry for some of my cousins, because I feel like Yeah, yeah. I feel like they're doing because it's for stability.
I think it's almost there's so many levels to it and so many layers to it, because there's that fear of instability. Like when you know, people chase their dreams or whatever, because they're quote unquote chasing dreams, it's almost like you're making it out to seem like it's impossible, like you'll never make a living, like things will not work out for you, because they view it as a dream. Because I guess it doesn't work out for everyone, and you do have to be realistic about that, but it's about the person and their intentions, their ambitions, their motivations, how willing they are to make it work. And I think some people they project their own doubts about their own ability to believe in themselves and do those things. They project it onto you because they fear failure.
100%. Yeah,
and they fear you not feeling it.
Not
fearing it.
Yeah, like what's wrong with you? Like what's wrong with you? Are you okay? You're crazy.
So, it's such a tough one, you know.
I think because of that, now some people they're trapped. Because they're trapped, now it leads to probably depression, mental health, and then now you want to talk about mental health?
A million
like what are you talking about? Like in our culture, it's what are you talking about? What is mental health?
It's, you know, I just so I'm someone who's been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
Explain what that means.
So borderline personality disorder, they used to, way back when in the olden days, the reason it's called borderline is because, or was called borderline, they now refer to it as EUPD, which is emotionally unstable personality disorder. I still think it's a little bit harsh, because it's, you know, people come with the stereotypes and whatever. Like when you hear someone saying oh, my crazy ex-girlfriend, and she keyed my car and she stalked me and she did all these things, she's emotionally unstable. And it's like, what it used to be actually, why it was called borderline is because they used to say it was on the borderline of schizophrenia and bipolar.
Right.
So what it is that you go through kind of these series of, it's very situational, and it can be mainly based around relationships, and it's generally rooted from childhood trauma. But it's basically just periods of emotional dysregulation, but it's not as extreme as someone with bipolar, because with bipolar, those periods of manic and depressive episodes can last anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months, depending on episodes. People think, oh, you're bipolar because you're happy for a day and sad for a day, but that is not what bipolar actually really looks like.
You know, I only know about what you just said that. I don't know anyone who has bipolar, but I only know about because do you know Empire? Andre having it.
No, the glasses are gone again.
Yeah, because I remember he was
but that is
depressed for a few.
Yeah, that is. I mean, obviously it's dramatized.
Yeah.
But yeah, bipolar it can be I can't talk today.
Yeah.
Debilitating disorder for the people who suffer from it and live with it. Obviously, for most mental health conditions, therapy and medication and a supportive background of people around you is the best medicine that you can have.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of emphasis on supportive people around you, because as we were saying about the authenticity side of things, I think when you have a mental health condition and you've been diagnosed with a mental health condition, there's so much shame surrounding it, and it can be very difficult to be open with the people you love about how you're really feeling, because it's scary.
Right.
It's scary. Those people don't want to hear that you feel like that. They don't want to hear that you don't want to be here anymore, or that life is really hard for you, or that you're struggling with things, because they, you know, everyone wants to think that the people that they love are happy in this life.
So do you have to see a therapist?
So yeah, I attend therapy weekly. It's quite intense therapy.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, where I work, because it is a therapeutic setting, I am able to have that time and have those adjustments made for me. But I have undergone therapy. So I got my diagnosis in 2015.
Why were you what was happening at the time?
So my uncle was quite severely ill. He was in hospital. He was deteriorating from dementia. And he was my rock. So my dad wasn't very present, still isn't to this day. But he was the first person to feed me when I was born, to hold me in that hospital, was there for me for everything I needed. And when he wasn't there anymore, that's when the last kind of thread that was holding me together snapped.
Yeah.
And so I took drastic measures. I was taken to hospital, and they started to do assessments and things like that from there, psychiatric assessments. And I had been kind of on their radar for a little while because I'd gone through a lot of stuff at home. Social services had been involved in the home. I had been depressed for probably many years, so I think I'd first been actually given antidepressants by a GP at the age of 16.
Wow, it's quite young.
Yeah, but they were really reluctant. But at that point, it's like CAMS had tried to get involved. I wasn't really engaging with CAMS because I was really paranoid and I was having a lot of like paranoid thoughts and things like a lot of anxiety, a lot of things like that. And people kind of just thought I was a bad kid.
Right.
Like my mum just thought I was a bad kid.
Because you was really rebellious.
Yeah, like behavior. I would go out, I would stay at friends' houses, I wouldn't pick up the phone to her, didn't want to hear. Like I was really rejecting that relationship. And that was for a number of reasons. But I think the most important reason why I was rejecting it is because I didn't feel safe in it at the time.
When you say didn't feel safe, as in at home? Yeah,
so there was a lot of stuff going on at home, and like I'm sure my mother will forgive me for saying, but she was going through her own things, and she wasn't able to be there for me. She wasn't able to be present, and so that definitely had an impact on me growing up. I had to kind of mature beyond my years, take care of myself, take care of my mum, and make sure certain things were sorted out in the way they need to be sorted out as much as a child could. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that obviously does have an impact on your health because you're not being a child. You're not able to go out there and, do things. You want to have friends coming over to have sleepovers and normal developmental things that children do at that age. Middle childhood friendships are very important in that development. And it's like, my mum was depressed and, there wasn't any food or the house was a mess or whatever. So I couldn't have friends around like that. And going around to other people's houses, I always felt a lot of internal shame because I felt like I had to go there and be this perfect child so that they didn't know I had all this stuff going on. So they would come back and they'd give me back to my mum, be such a pleasure to be around. And I liked hearing those nice things about myself because I didn't hear it a lot. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? So yeah, that was a lot. But yeah, so after time, things started kind of to be picked up by the school, more into secondary school because I started to not be naughty, but my behaviour started to deteriorate a bit. Yeah. So I think being a black girl as well, luckily I grew up in Harrow, so it's quite multicultural and diverse, but still I wouldn't say that black children were that predominant in my school. There were plenty, but
Asian culture.
It was mostly Asian culture in that area. So I found myself kind of slowly getting a little bit more into trouble, finding myself in an inclusion room more often. And there was a teacher there, bless her, and she just said to me, like, you never used to be in here, like, what is going on? And I told her everything that was going on, and she was like, like, you technically qualify as like a young carer, and like you've got all this stuff going on and you need a break. And she kind of supported me in understanding that I'm important and my needs are important and they need to be met. And that's kind of where my interest in like psychology and mental health and what it actually means to be me, if that makes sense. So I started looking into those things, and those kind of years, like my GCSE years and stuff, like I wasn't in the classroom for a lot of it. Like I was doing my maths and my English outside the head teacher's office because the teachers were like, I don't want you in here, because they would say something to me and I'm sorry, Miss Khan, if you're watching this, Miss Khan, I didn't mean it, but you were moving mad. Anyway,
what happened?
So I was going to this classroom and it was science. I was doing double science for my GCSEs or whatever. And I was the last person in line. So I've stepped over the threshold of this door. Miss Mams told me, get out. Why do I need to get out? You're late. So everyone who stepped in this classroom before me, they're not late. Just because I'm at the end of the line, I'm late. You're singling me out. I don't like it.
No, that's personal, man. Yeah.
So at this point, she said a few mad things to people over the time, and I feel like, I know I'm a child, but somebody needs to stop this woman.
You know what? Like some teachers actually they I know all teachers, they have like favorites and they have ones that they don't like and they pick on them purposely. Right. I remember seeing like someone would just walk into classroom do nothing, right? And they'd be like, get out. Like, what?
So this is what I was experiencing at this time, and I felt it was unnecessary. But me with my dramatic ass, can't help myself. Might have told her to get run over by a bus. So... Sorry, Miss Khan. I know you cried about that day. It's okay. It's okay. I didn't mean it. But no, she from that day, I remember it went slightly downhill from there.
Yeah.
She didn't want me in science, so then I wasn't in science. And then kids, there was, internet was a big thing. Like, came about, late 90s, we all know that, but it was really growing. Like when we were in school, MSN, you go straight home from school,
and that's
log
all
on
you do.
and talk to the same damn people you spent all day with.
Oh, did you used to do get everyone in group and then just add everyone into a group?
The group chats, BBM, the pings,
yeah,
all of that nonsense,
funny, man.
all of that chaos. So Facebook was rife around those times, and there were some boys in my year group that were severely bullying this girl. She was a bigger girl, bless her, but she didn't do anything to anyone. She was harmless. And she was quite, I think this is another thing, and forgive me for saying it, but when you're a black or an ethnic child, you cannot really be that open about your mental health. You can't really go on Facebook and talk about how you want to die, because your aunties and uncles will be calling. They'll be calling. What is your child posting on the internet? Come and collect your infant, because what is this behaviour?
Yeah.
If you don't collect them, I will.
Yeah.
But some people, they're free to do those things, so they're maybe not policed as much online or whatever. So she was one of those people very expressive online, and they decided to target her for that.
Where's she from?
She was a Polish girl.
Okay.
She was a Polish girl, and she was very open about how she was feeling with her mental health and stuff online. And, children can be really cruel. They can be really, really nasty, because they just don't really understand.
Cyberbullying now, isn't it?
It's cyberbullying. It's all of these things. Like, it's really, and they were just, she was posting things that, granted, they were all red flags. Safeguarding should have been all over that. Like mental health, someone should have intervened.
Yeah. But
she was posting content related to self-harm, and they were, because this is how it gets in schools. They were telling her, well, you're not trying hard enough.
Huh?
Yeah.
As in trying hard to harm yourself?
Yeah. As in, why are you still here? So, of course, me being who I am, I can't witness that and do nothing about it. So I went into school on smoke, because they were trying to pick on me as well. And I had been playing it cool.
Yeah.
Because I don't like people to catch me out of character. Furthermore, unfortunately, due to the colour of my skin, the consequences are going to be more dire for me. I just have to put it out there.
Yeah. And
so I had to, my mum always told me, like, if they hit you, hit them back.
yeah. You know what? That's real. Like, you're not going to teach a child, oh, if someone hit you, just tell the teacher, just dodge it. No. I think, this is some of the things. I think some people don't understand. I found secondary school, it's like a survival place. You have to learn how to survive. It's like, you go in there, if someone hits you, you don't hit back, but you don't hit back, but you go to the teacher. Bullied. You're a snitch. You're a pussy hole. Do you know what I mean? All of that stuff. Yeah. But if you hit back, you get in trouble. So what? But at least you
stood up for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And then if anything, that other person probably have respect for you.
Right,
do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's the messed up. Children are just depraved. Like they're so primal. Yeah. Everything they do is just like, it's like a hierarchy. Yeah. It's like a little dog pack. Like there's always a little leader, there's little followers, and little, bless them, minions. Like
I remember my fights. My brother, he had a fight, and basically he was racist. This white boy was like, by the way, for those who are not from the UK, for people in America, apparently you don't say white boy or you don't say that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So if you say Caucasian,
you're
Caucasian, yeah.
But to me, if I say Caucasian, I'm trying to shade you. I can't lie.
It's weird, isn't it?
Caucasian, I'm like, the caucasity of it all.
But anyway, this is white boy. Basically, he purposely tried to pick on my brother, like tried to trigger him by saying, "Oh, your mom, you're this, you're the Chinese," all that, basically racist stuff, right? My brother just ignored him, told him to fuck off. And then so this is in science, and then when he told me the story. Then when he walked out of the classroom, he said the boy was actually waiting for him outside, pushed him, right? And my brother was like, don't do it.
That's it.
Like, just don't tell him to fuck off. And he walked away. And then this boy got his brother involved, trying to get my brother again. And this time my brother was like, you know what, that's it, and punched him, right? So then obviously the fight got broken up, blah blah. And I still remember this, like, the teacher was saying, because my mum was out, but she told me on the phone, I was like, yeah, basically, you know, your brother really should have gone to the teacher, because he basically saying that my brother did it to himself. He got into a fight because he didn't tell the teacher early enough that they got this racism remarks. I'm thinking, are you stupid?
It's just it's so messed up.
Yeah.
Like, it's very actually incredibly similar to literally what I was saying to you. So this boy had been picking on this girl. Yeah. He had also been doing things like that to me. Funnily enough, in science, because science is where the children just seem to be doing whatever they want. Yeah. Science teachers, get it together. So yeah, he's been calling me the N-word. He's been doing all these things. He's been making comments about the colour of my skin and whatever. But I've been ignoring it. Then I've seen what him and his friends have been doing.
Where's he from?
He was an English boy.
Okay.
I should really, but I'm not going to, because I'm sure you have a job now. But you know who you are. Anyway. He'd really just been going on with his friends and now picking on this girl. And he must have, so one day, after I've said something to him about this thing, and now he's decided to try and up the ante on me. Wrong mistake. Big mistake.
Just going back quickly. How did you stick up for the Polish girl?
Right, this is where we get
okay.
He starts to up the ante on me because I've stuck up for her.
Right.
And I'm walking past the corridor and he said something. I don't even remember to this day what it was he said. But I just switched. Yeah. I just switched. And unfortunately for him, I was doing kickboxing and mixed martial arts at the time.
Ooh.
So needless to say, it took 2 teachers to get me off him.
Well, you do a roundhouse kick on him and everything.
I had to destroy his ass because really and truly you're taking the piss.
So go into details. So what happened? So you walk past.
So literally, I remember because my form room was right there. The door of my form room was here, and I was coming out, and he said something, and I just pinned him against the wall, and I just started kneeing him in the stomach.
Oi!
I literally just got him, and I was kneeing him. I was elbowing him in his head. I was like, you just really picked the wrong one. Yeah, you did, because all these months and whatever you've been playing with me, and I've been keeping quiet.
That's why you don't mess with the quiet ones.
Been keeping quiet.
Yeah.
But today you're going to feel it. And he felt it. But what got me about that entire situation is I was the one that got suspended.
And he didn't. Yeah.
Nothing happened to that boy.
Did you tell the teacher what he...
They sat us down. They've got screenshots from Facebook. They can see what he's done.
And he didn't get nothing?
Bro, the police should have been called on that boy. The police should have been called on him. If anything like that happened in the school that I currently work in, I would not hesitate to involve the police, because this is people's lives at the end of the day. You can clearly see that girl was on the edge and you took it upon yourself to make a mockery of it. What kind of person are you? I don't care if you're a child, I'm sorry, but clearly there's some missing morals and values there. Yeah. Because you don't teach your children kindness.
Yeah. I do believe children, these behaviours is learned from parents.
100%.
Yeah.
Because the things I see at work on a daily basis, like, you'll get a child, people will swear up and down, that's a good child. And I'm not saying there are bad children. There's only bad parenting. And I don't have any children, so I'm not one to speak and say you're a bad parent. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I'm just saying it's a learning curve. It doesn't come with a manual, but I think some things you'd think you wouldn't want your child to copy or do or say. Yeah. So, example, kind of little side note, there was someone who was, I can't even remember where I'd met this person, but this person basically had said to their children that when they needed to clean their room, what, you want to live like a N-word.
Wait, how do you know about this?
I can't remember where I heard this from, but this is something that I can't remember exactly who told me this, but someone's basically saying that they're saying to their children, so you want to live like an N-word, clean this room, Right. Don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Exactly.
Because I know my home's very clean and tidy.
Yeah.
But
you know what? I've got a story to tell you about that. So, the gym. I won't say the gym name. What name? Yeah, but the gym that we at. But it's not that branch in my previous branch that I was in. Okay, so there's this guy there. This is my old colleague anyway. He was there in staff room. So my friend told me about this. What happened because I had already left, but he called me and told me about the situation. Basically, him and three other persons. So one girl, 3 other boys in there in the locker room. So anyway, the girl, she put cocoa butter on like that, right? She's English. Okay, she put on cocoa butter, and the guy who made the comment is Turkish. And then there's another English boy, and then there's a Greek boy. The reason I'm saying specifying, but it's just so you understand the situation. But anyway, so the Turkish guy was like to the girl, "Oh, don't put too much of the cocoa butter, because otherwise you're gonna smell like the N-word."
Do you know?
And then the girl and the guy, the English boy, just sort of like they laughed at it. Apparently, they laughed. The Greek boy didn't laugh. And the Turkish boy turned to him and was like, "Why are you not laughing? Is it because you like your N-words?" And he was just like, "Yo, just chill out, yeah?" And then anyway, so that, and then after that, it escalated, didn't it? So he got to management, and now that Turkish boy is gone.
100 million%. Because
the thing is, like, in that context, like, what's it meant to mean? Do you know what I mean?
If somebody had said to me like, "Oh, in a kind of passing comment, oh, she smells like cocoa butter," or something, I'd be like, "Yeah, she looks like she smells good." Yeah. Because that's a compliment to me. Like, smelling like cocoa butter, smelling like Razak, smelling like any of those lotions. To me, that means I bathed my skin this morning.
Yeah. I remember walking out the staff room with cocoa butter, and then my friend, one of my colleagues was like, I want to eat you up. Like,
delicious. Delicious. That's exactly what I am. Yeah. You're a hater if you think anything else.
Yeah. And this is a whole different situation, but I'm talking about children learning behaviour from their parents. So my parents have takeaway. And I used to help out and in the shop. So I remember I was there, and then this man came with his son. The son was probably like 5 years old. They're regular customers, like really nice people. They come in, and the next thing I see the little boy do this, just looking around like this, right, and smiling. And the dad didn't see. The dad was looking outside, and I'm like looking at him. I'm thinking, okay, shall I say anything? I don't know. And I looked at the dad. Dad was not looking. I was like, okay, cool. Let me just keep quiet. Next thing now, the dad turns around and looked at him like, "What are you doing?" And he was shook. He was like, "What are you doing, son?" And he was like, and the son goes, "I'm trying to be Chinese." And then he
was like 5 though.
Yeah. And then his dad was like, looked at like, yeah. And then he was like, "That's taking the piss. Don't do that." Like that. And then after, I think his dad made it worse. His dad was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, like I don't know where he learned that from. He goes to school with Indian people. Like, there's Chinese." Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then no, that's not even that bad. He goes to me, "Oh, like I mean, like you two, for example, like I think you're beautiful. So like, what does that even got to do with anything?" Do you know what I mean?
Sir.
And I think, and anyway, I was like, it's cool. And when I gave him his food, he was like, I said, "Enjoy a meal." And he's probably thinking, "Thank you." He's probably thinking, "Shit, did these people spit my food?"
He's probably thinking like, if he hears any foreign language in the back, he's thinking it's about him. He's paro forever now.
Yeah, she got the chef come out with a knife saying like, what?
You know what I mean? Like, I'll chop you up.
Yeah. Oh. So, because of what you just shared about your story, thank you for sharing about that, by the way. Is that why you're doing what you're doing now?
Do you know, so I feel like this has gone on 17 different tangents, and we'll definitely come back to that random woman and what she said, because wild, and learnt behaviour from children. But I think what initially got me into it was just really wanting to understand myself. So the start of this kind of journey, I feel like, began in my A-levels, because I had the opportunity to choose psychology and sociology, and English lit and drama. So I kind of was a bit more free to be, you know, because I had always, like, I'd been doing dance, musical theatre and things like that, and I'd wanted to do...
Oh, no wonder when I see you come to a dance class, I see you vibing. And
that's where the theatrics and dramatics comes from.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so I used to go to a musical theatre school, and I used to do like ballet and contemporary and all of these other things, courtesy of my uncle, bless his soul. But yeah, when I expressed that want to be creative, that was immediately kind of shut down. Luckily though, with psychology, we were able to kind of find a middle ground, because she was like, oh, can you be a doctor? And I was like, yes, I can be a doctor. And she was like, okay then, no problem. You know, as long as you can be a doctor of something, that's fine. So, you know, as long as I told her all the scientific stuff, she was yeah, carry on. So A-levels, like sociology, psychology, I really found like all the answers that I was looking for, like all the questions I had about the world and like people and family dynamics and all the things that happen, because there's so many kind of like phenomena that we experience as human beings that we don't even know. We think they're unique to ourselves, but they're not. Like sometimes we're all living the same life and we don't even know it.
Yeah.
Which is probably where people get this idea of the Matrix and all those things, you know. But just things that I was learning in that kind of like A-level setting, just as a basic. I was really lucky to have really great A-level teachers that were really nurturing as well. But the things that I learned, I started to question myself. I started to learn things about myself. Funnily enough, before I got my diagnosis, one of the things I was learning about in psychology was like anxiety disorders, depression, things like that. And we briefly touched over personality disorders very lightly. And there was this kind of chart thing, like a kind of tick box thing, and it was like symptoms and like the names and stuff. And I remember looking through them and kind of being not drawn to two, but very clearly like identifying myself in two of them. One of them was borderline, and I can't actually remember what the other one was now. So it's quite interesting that just a couple years later that kind of materialized. But yeah, no, it was really interesting because I was able to learn about myself, learn about the people around me in a way that wasn't emotional. Because I think sometimes when emotions are attached to things, like you can have very strong feelings towards things are really good or things are really bad. And it was very much kind of like, this is how things are. And this is what you can do about it, and this is what happens when you don't do something about it. And I think it was the knowing what happens when you don't do something about it that was really scary for me. And I kind of vowed to myself, like, as much as I'd been through and whatever, and I wanted to change my trajectory anyway, this was kind of like the avenue that I saw myself doing it down. And then following A-levels, went to uni, studying psychology there, really kind of, I was looking towards more of the clinical side of things initially, like everyone does when they go into psychology. But then I found a lot of place in other like aspects. Developmental psychology was one of my really most treasured topics. Also, there was a topic that I did called drugs, hormones, and the brain. And that was something that I also found really interesting as well. Possibly due to my own prior experiences as well. And that kind of took me in a different angle, where I realized that there were lots of vulnerable people that were falling victim to circumstances in their life. And without the proper support and kind of guidance and protection, like they're all falling through the cracks. Like on my university placement, started on a placement, but then ended up working there. Working for an organisation called the Reasons Why Foundation, who I'll say about it because I'm sure Roger won't mind me getting the publicity out there. But they work with prisoners and ex-offenders. And I remember working with some clients while there, and the things I would hear, these were adult men mostly, because the prison that we were going into was a male prison. But we did have some female clients that were referred through social services, job centres, things like that. But some of the things I was hearing was, you know, some of my clients were doing crack cocaine with their mum at the age of 8 years old. Like, what chance do you have in life when you're doing crack at 8?
Wow.
There's no way. There's no chance.
Crack at 8?
Crack at 8. As in, your caregiver, the person who brought this into you was like, here, try some crack.
Like, I mean, I heard stories like, my mum was a drug dealer and I used to smuggle drugs with her when I was 3.
Which is already a mess.
Yeah.
We'll just put them in the back of the buggy. A mess.
Yeah, but to do. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, like, if no one has these, that, because I see them as children, they just never really got a chance to kind of grow up, you know. No one has these people's backs. They're literally out here fighting for their lives on their own. Like, and how can you really expect much more than to end up in jail? Yeah. I'm not saying that's what I want for these people, but how can you expect much more than that?
Yeah.
If you've already got an addiction at that age, where are you going to get money from?
Yeah.
You're going to start doing wild things.
Yeah.
And there's adults in your life who are supposed to take care of you that are encouraging it. There's just no chance. So yeah, back to like learnt behaviour and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That lady was saying all that stuff to her kids, and then this woman's daughter, I can't even remember the exact story. She went out there and she said something so wild and out of turn. Yeah. And she got pulled up on it. And she was like, well, my mum used to say these things to me all the time. Like, I didn't see what the problem is. It's not racist. It's just a phrase. And they were just looking at her like...
Oh, the one about the keeping your room tidy.
Yeah, keeping your room tidy, yeah.
Yeah.
So her children are now going out there and saying these things.
like it's normal.
Like it's nothing. And then someone's pulled her up on it and she's all in tears. I'm not racist. But as if you didn't hear the words coming out of your mouth. But because of what she's used to, she didn't think twice about it. And like, there's a child that I work with in my school, and he is, I would say for the most part, left to his own devices at 10 years old. And you know, there's things that you kind of have suspicions about in households, but you never really know until you see the behaviours. And one day last week, he got really, really dysregulated. Dysregulated like we've not seen him before. And at that time, the staff that was supporting him were 2 black women. And at that time, the words that were coming out of this boy's mouth, shocking. And at that point, I knew. Because even in his induction paperwork, I don't know why, I just got a bit of a vibe. Usually it says...
What vibe was you saying?
It was just a very much... For not wanting to offend people, but it was a very typical British, misogynistic... Let's go out for a pint. Take the kid with us for the pint. Give the kid a pint too vibes. Yeah. And I was just like, there's no boundaries. There's no differentiation between adult and friend. Yeah. This child sees everything you do, hears everything you say, and I guarantee that some of that stuff is not child appropriate or appropriate for anyone's ears. It's just outright offensive. And the more he's gotten comfortable in the space and felt safe, because we provide that environment of safety to be themselves, the more you see the true colours of the person behind the mask. Because when they all come in, they all mask as perfect children. But as they get comfortable, they show them their true selves. And you see some of the things they say. Like the other day, one of the children walked into my classroom and he said women should be slaves.
Where's he from? You don't mind me asking.
Caucasian. So
really?
But he has some strange views anyway. There's different members of his family that are just influencing him with the strange views. His mother is very lovely, actually, but other members of his family, because it's not just one, like, it takes a village, doesn't it? And if that village is shite, what can we say?
So like, you see, where you work, is it like is it part of the school, or is it another separate?
So we are like an organisation of independent schools, so we're not government run.
Okay.
But we are funded by the local authority because the children have the educational healthcare plans in place. So
it's not after school club, is it?
No. This is
after school. Okay.
8:30, like 8:50 in the morning till the end of the day.
And do they learn the same stuff like maths, like in that structure, or?
So we try to teach them. We do our best to teach them. A lot of them, due to having been kicked out of multiple schools, having missed time at school due to problems at home, or being moved around the care system, or even being like residential schools, or all different health issues, different reasons why they would have missed. So children in our school on average across the service miss about 15 months of school before they enter our service.
So they've been out of school for 15 months straight?
On average, due to either behaviour issues, exclusions, problems at home, health issues, anxiety, like too anxious to leave the house.
And who enrolls these
So they will have been referred to by either a social worker, the local authority, mostly the local authority. Sometimes like educational psychologists and stuff get involved. But yeah, it's quite a lengthy process.
Wow. And then so for the children that come to this school, have they already been diagnosed with?
So not all of them are neurodivergent in the aspect of like ADHD, autism, things like. A lot of them do have diagnoses, but some of them, their neurodivergence is from trauma, because a certain level of trauma before a certain age has a physical impact on your brain development. So it actually slows down the development of your prefrontal cortex. Your amygdala becomes heightened because your amygdala is your like prehistoric brain. So it takes charge of things like fight or flight mode. So what happens with children who have experienced acute levels of stress or toxic stress is that their hormones in their amygdala, they're constantly sky high. So it takes a lot more to bring them back down to baseline level, and eventually that baseline level shifts. So what happens is, if we've all got a baseline level of here, and it takes a certain amount of dysregulation to get us to actually physically act out and be triggered, but also because we have self-soothing strategies and techniques that our parents have taught us, or we've learned over time, we can bring ourselves back down below that threshold. But when you're constantly having that amygdala activation, the threshold, it lowers. So it takes less and less to trigger you, because you've already got that level of stress hormone cortisol in your system. So it takes a lot less to trigger these children, and a lot more to soothe them. So what happens is they become dysregulated over really seemingly small things, and that becomes unmanageable. So in a mainstream school setting, child who, because of maybe their ADHD or whatever, and additionally with their trauma and the stress that they're going through, let's say they're not able to sit still, and they've been told to sit still, and now they're upset, and now they're being told to leave the classroom, and it's going to escalate. They're going to get dysregulated. They're going to maybe physically act out, because we all know from being a child, when you're a child, you somatically feel emotions. Like we were talking about your ecstatic dance thing, you need to move. When you're angry, you need to stomp. You see toddlers stomping, throwing themselves on the floor, because that's the release of those hormones and those emotions. That's why it's so important to cry, because when you have that build up of cortisol, that stress hormone, it can make you physically sick. Because that fight or flight mode, what it is, it's preparing your body for survival. But because of the world that we live in nowadays, the threats are confusing to our brain. The world is moving at so much of a faster pace that our brain can evolve.
We're always on a fight.
We're always in fight or flight mode. Because something that used to be, I need to be anxious or scared because there might be a tiger or a lion nearby, has now become, I haven't responded to my emails. Because the threats have changed. So the things that get us into fight or flight mode confuse us now, and we don't even know why we're upset half the time.
And also now coffee, people having coffee all the time.
Really, changing your physiological responses to things. Your heart rate's increasing. And if you're not self-aware, or you don't have very good like vestibular senses, or like inward looking, like as in knowing your body, you can think, what's wrong with me? But realizing you're not, like you're saying, I think I need a coffee, like I'm not, and realize you're actually feeding that anxiety with that caffeine and making it worse if you're not aware of these things. Do you know what I mean? So like, not just children, but we do it to ourselves all the time.
Because it's now become so normal that people just don't realize it.
I mean, there's a really interesting video. He's a medical doctor. His name's Gabor Mate. He's a Hungarian fellow over in the States, and he was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 54, I believe. But for the longest time in his life, he was like, why am I not succeeding? Why am I not going to the places I want to be at? I want to be a well-known author. I want to do all these things. I want to have a better relationship with my children. And it wasn't until he got diagnosed that he realized this is what was the problem. This is why I was losing my temper. This is why this was happening. That is why that was happening. And he does a lot of podcasts, videos, speeches, talks, lectures on the things that he's experienced. So he keeps one very interesting book he wrote is The Body Keeps Score.
Okay.
So it's talking about how our emotions and our bodies are linked, and our minds and our bodies are linked, and all of these things. But he has a really, really great video on YouTube. It's probably about no more than 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it's called Addiction and Authenticity.
I think I've heard of that, actually.
And it is a beautiful video. I watch it. I wouldn't say I'm particularly addicted to anything, but I watch it in general because the message behind it is so meaningful. He talks about numbing. He talks about that need that we have to run away from things that are uncomfortable.
Right, yeah.
And he talks about how addiction is basically nothing more than a need for a hug.
You know what? It's funny you say that. So I have a client. She was an addict. I'll say she was an addict, like I think alcoholic. But she still calls herself. She's sober now. I think she's been sober 11 months. Something. Anyway, she says she's an addict. Yeah, she says she's an addict. And I said to her, and I was like, "No, you're not.
Yeah.
Like not anymore." She goes, "No, I am." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, she basically saying like it's basically you're born with some sort of like, basically if you're an addict, you're forever an addict. But for example, like she was an alcoholic, but now she's moved on to doing something that she's addicted to, which is her business. So when she came out of the rehab, she went to start her own business, and that business is doing like this cosmetic business or things like that. She turned into 6-figure making business in 6 months. And yeah, that, yeah. And going back to the love bit of having one a hug, when it comes to her love life, she's always craving for love. Like when she meets someone new, she'll be so addicted to that person. Yeah, she'll be addicted to them, things like that, and she just want to feel loved.
Yeah. And that is, like, from the people that I've met in my time on this planet, and even my own personal experiences, I think we all have experienced it to some extent or some degree, that void or that lack and that wanting to fill it with something, you know, whether it be creativity, whether it be love, whether it be addiction. But I think everyone is on that kind of, I think it's normal part of the human condition to be on that search for what is the meaning of this life, why am I here, what am I in this place for,
your life purpose.
Your purpose. And I think when, for some people, I won't say everyone because I think some people are perfectly happy with it, but for some people that feeling of purposelessness is too much to bear, because am I here just to be a punching bag for others? Am I here just to make others feel better? Am I here to serve a purpose? Like, what am I here for? Do you know what I mean? And I think I can't personally speak, but I think for some people when they fall into addiction, or at least very much from what I understand, of what I've read and heard, it's to numb the pain. There's so much pain in this existence, and when you're not adequately supported, I think, you know, it is just like a big warm hug. You know, you don't think about anything, you forget about everything, and things seem okay for a while. It might be temporary, but it's okay for a while. And that's why, you know, I really understand people who, although, you know, it's not necessarily the best choice, who am I to judge? But, you know, when there are people out there on the streets and they are asking for money, and people are like, oh, no, I don't want to give you money because you're going to spend it on drugs. If you're going to give you the money, first of all, you can't exactly stipulate what you're going to give it to them for. You're giving them the money. Yeah. What they do with it, that's not on you.
Yeah.
You're giving them the money.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't do that. If you're not going to give them the money, then tell them, I'll buy you something. I'm not going to give you money.
Yeah.
But anyway, I can't lie to you. When I was a kid, I did this thing called the challenge. It's kind of like Duke of Edinburgh. Yeah. And I did a big sleep out. So we slept outside in the streets for a night. And I shit you not, that shit was cold. I was only a teenager back then, but I can completely understand why someone who's going through whatever they've gone through to end up on the streets for a period of time would choose to buy drugs over food with the money that they have. I'm not saying that it's the best thing you would do to survive, but in terms of whatever they've got going on, that's going through their head. They haven't got a roof over their head. They haven't got a penny to their name. They've probably got a whole bunch of other problems. Plus, being addicted to something, they've got an itch as well. The only thing they want to do is just quiet their minds and not feel the pain that they're going through. Do you get what I mean? So they might buy drugs, yeah, but can you blame them? Can you fucking blame them?
Yeah. Wow.
Like, people go home and they smoke, you know,
weed,
a spliff or whatever,
yeah,
but they're high and mighty because they've got the ability to do it in their house, or sit and do that and say, you know, but I go to work every day. But not everyone is lucky enough to be in that position, lucky enough to be supported, or to not be judged by their family, or to have a good job that they can get by in. And, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a crazy world, really. Like, there's so many levels to it.
So we're going to wrap it up here. It was really good.
I feel like we've got so much more to
Yeah, we are definitely. This is not the end.
We didn't even finish any of the stories that we began.
Yeah. Yeah, because, you know, like, the studio's only booked to a certain time, but obviously you can always come back. You're more than welcome to come back.
I'd love to be back.
But thank you so much for sharing your story, being vulnerable. I think
It's
that's I'm sure a lot of people will inspire a lot of people as well, and help people out there. This is what this show is all about. Thank you, viewers. Thank you for listening, watching. If you resonated and you found it beneficial, or you think someone should listen or watch this, share this, show us some love, please spread the words. And yeah, thank you for your support. Love ya.